Hello there, my friends, and welcome to With a Witch, where you can do stuff with me, a witch. Today, we're doing some tarot journaling. I use tarot quite regularly on the day-to-day, but I also try to work with my decks in very particular ways in accordance with the moon cycle, especially in alignment with the quarters. So, for the most recent moon quarter, which was a full moon, a supermoon actually, I went to two of my decks to ask two questions. The first was in honor of the celebratory and fulfilling and realizing of intent energies of the full moon. What accomplishment should I be sure to celebrate? This can be a really important question for me, actually. I'm not always good at taking the time to recognize when something is good, when something is working, when I should be proud and glad and ecstatic about an effort or outcome. I am far more self-critical than is really ideal. But this tarot prompt gives me the opportunity to celebrate myself, to acknowledge my own success, to recognize what has come or is coming to fruition. I used this gorgeous gray paper with gold marbling as backing for this page. I really liked the idea of having something bright and reflective to shine back at me from behind the tarot art. There was something a little esoteric going through my head, like my internal self or truth or whatever being reflected back at me through the card. We can ignore that, but I do think it's pretty. So for this question, I drew a card from my Botanical Inspirations Oracle deck. It is a beautiful deck that's based on Victorian flower language. Each card features some gorgeous art, the common and scientific names of the plant, a short phrase describing what the card represents, and then a quote that adds some depth to the card. I really appreciate having the quote with this deck. I prefer not to memorize card meanings. I really like to interpret based on the art in front of me and my own intuition. But with decks with simple art like this, that can be a challenge. The quote gives me something additional to work with that's really nice. It adds some nuance that I really enjoy. Today, the card I drew was the Sacred Lotus, Nymphaea Caerulea, meaning enlightenment. Thich Nhat Hanh, who was a Vietnamese monk and peace activist, said, "No mud, no lotus." Before we get into interpretations, we're actually going to turn to the other question I asked this quarter, which is something I actually ask every quarter. Is there anything I need to know? I phrased this question very intentionally. Not, what do you have to tell me? Not even what do I need to know, but is there anything I need to know? Some quarters, there just isn't. Some quarters, when I ask this question, no card calls to me, nothing pops out of the deck. At those times, that tells me that I just don't need to hear anything, that I have everything in my head that is necessary for the coming quarter. But this quarter, I very much did need to hear something, so I did pull a card. Because this is a question that invites slapping across the face, I used a deck that has zero problem doing so. This is from the Shadowscapes deck, which is an absolutely stunning tarot deck with very detailed, nuanced art based on fairy tales and folklore of various traditions. It is far and away my favorite deck to work with that I have. Apparently, it didn't actually need to slap me today, as I drew the Two of Wands. We'll talk a bit about why that's so excellent in a moment. Like I already said, I like to interpret my tarot cards visually and intuitively, which largely involves identifying what features of a card stick out at me and resonate. Today I'm using tags made out of this scrap paper that I watercolored with a blue gradient to highlight imagery and keywords that speak to me and that influence my interpretation of the card in response to the question being asked. The Sacred Lotus is a fairly straightforward interpretation. This month I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what my future looks like. I'm at a bit of a crossroads in my career and everything, honestly, and I've been struggling to figure out what path to take. But not too long ago, I came up with an idea for something, a passion project, that would not only be fun to work on and beneficial for people in the short term, but that could really turn into a long-term career-type project. And I formulated a better idea of what I want to study in grad school, and I came up with a research question and an associated study to write a proposal for in order to get the study funded. Basically, I started this moon cycle with questions and a bit of a breakdown, if I'm honest, and I've not only come up with answers to those questions, goals, dreams, things to pursue, but have started pursuing them. And the Sacred Lotus kind of speaks to that perfectly, invites me to celebrate this new path, this revelation, this enlightenment, this work I've already done to chase the growth that I see. It tells me that I've been in the mud, but now I've found this flower, and even though the dreams haven't been realized, the flower isn't fully grown, or however we want to extend that metaphor. The flower, as it is still beautiful. I finished this page with more of that light gray and gold paper right at the bottom, just to try to use up more of what was left over from cutting out the backing. It was just too pretty to throw away. Looking back on it now, I kind of wish I'd used some of the black and gold paper on this side to tie the two sides together a bit more and give it more of a balanced, light and dark, yin and yang sort of feel, but I like it well enough as it is. This half is now basically done, so we're going to turn back to the right half of the spread and work on interpreting the other card. The card itself is pretty interesting as well, especially in response to this particular question. So at first look, it doesn't actually say that much more than the Lotus did. At the very least, it seems to be speaking on the same topic. So that growing light, fading dark, the beginning of a journey, the brightening dawn. It's the start of something bright and wonderful that will require work and effort, but is beautiful regardless. The thing that I love about this card is that it is one of those draws that really reminds me that whether tarot is random chance that we give meaning to out of a fruitless search for it, or whether the universe is actually speaking to us through the random and serendipitous, it is truly a marvel. Because at the beginning of the cycle, on the new moon, when, as I mentioned, I was going through a bit of a breakdown, a quarter-life crisis of sorts, I also asked the tarot right then what I needed to know, using this exact same deck. It gave me strength and the Ace of Wands. You can actually see me turning back to those pages, double-checking that I was remembering that correctly, and I absolutely was. At the new moon, this deck told me that something was dawning, that paths were appearing before me, that opportunity was coming if I had the strength to look for it and start walking in that direction. And I spent the time since then trying to do exactly that, and I found something, and it felt right and good and wonderful, and I was pretty sure I had found what I was looking for, that thing that has the potential to be so bright and amazing, but you never know for sure. This card kind of confirms it for me in a way, shows me that I have taken that first step, I have started on that path. Nothing is finished, but my eyes are on the right prize and my feet are walking in the right direction. The work that I have done and am planning to do is worthwhile. The Ace of Wands to the Two of Wands is not a giant step, but it is a step on the same path. I love tarot so much. I did the same thing on this half of the spread as I did on the other, adding some of that backing paper onto some extra places on the page for just a bit more pizzazz. And then I went back to the first half and added even more pizzazz. I also went back and turned the O's in the title into little moons. Badly, frankly. I think the third one turned out best, but the other two look more like anemic chocolate chip cookies. But you know, the idea was good. And this is how it turned out. I'm a pretty big fan of it. It's relatively simple, almost minimalist, though not quite, and I love how the gold and the grays and the colors of the cards and the blues all play off each other. Plus, these cards themselves were pretty spectacular, so it's really hard not to be pleased by a spread that features them. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while we explore my full moon tarot. If you made it this far, drop a full moon emoji down in the comments to say hi. Give this video a like, and if you want to explore more things with a witch, that's me, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, I hope your world is full of many things worth celebrating. Bye!